everybody. I'm Pastor Stephen Friedrich. I serve at Peace Lutheran Church in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm joined today with a fabulous pastor, Pastor Jonathan.
Hey, I'm Pastor Jonathan. I serve in the Senate office here in the Southeastern Senate. My particular role is congregational life, so I deal with a lot of congregations that are in transition. It's really cool to be here. It's really cool to share. So I look forward to our conversation today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you're here. And so part of my story is I was baptized on January 27th, 1985 at Messiah Lutheran Church here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I didn't know that though until I went into the candidacy process for discernment about being a pastor, and had to fill it out on the form of, when were you baptized? Hey mom, when was I baptized? And then found out from there. And it was hearing the other day from my mom that she was telling me about my baptism, and I was hoping she was going to say, "Oh, the heavens opened and it was this big moment." And she said, "Stephen, it wasn't a deeply spiritual moment, but it was everything it needed to be."
Awesome. That is awesome.
Thanks, Mom. So, Pastor Jonathan, what's your baptism story?
Yeah, it's so funny that you asked me that because I did not necessarily grow up in the Lutheran church. I actually grew up in the Pentecostal congregation church. And so they more believed in kind of like believer's baptism, if you will. So I know that's a little bit different than what we ascribe to here in our Lutheran tradition. But I was baptized when I was 11 years old. And I remember I was baptized on Easter Sunday. And so I had on my Sunday's best. And I was baptized by immersion, right? That's where you get dunked in the pool and you come up and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm trying to think about, I was really trying to think about what was significant about Easter Sunday, except the fact that it was Easter Sunday, right? I don't know if I was moved to it, but it was a choice that I made. My mom didn't make it. My family didn't make it for me. I made it clearly myself. And I don't know what was going on in my life at 11 years old that I knew that this was the moment I wanted to become baptized or whatever the case may be. But I remember I do remember like having on like a tie and a shirt and some slacks. I don't know. I remember that part of it. Other than that, I don't really remember anything else except that I had to change clothes, put on like a little white robe that represent purity, of course, all that good stuff. And I remember my mom being super excited for me, right? That I was baptized. It was I don't know. It seemed like it was an incredible experience. But I don't know, it brings me so much joy when I think about it, Stephen. Like I get all excited about my baptismal story because it's my story. And it's really shaped and formed me for who I am today and what I believe. So it's yeah.
Awesome. And what was it I know in some Lutheran baptism traditions, there's like you make a decision and then you plan the baptism down the road. And other places I was praying right now and the Spirit moved me and I came forward and was baptized. What was your experience?
Yeah, it was that immediate come forward, be baptized. It wasn't preparation or a class or down the road. It was, I think today is the day, and this is the day. We're gonna make it happen. And right there, it was so spontaneous. And I don't know, but it's even today as I think about it, and I hadn't thought about it very much, but I don't know, it brings me so much joy right now. I get all excited because it's the moment where you know that you are marked and claimed by Christ and you are part of God's family forever. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it sounds like you were. So, I mean, it's a beautiful story, and God was at work in the midst of that.
Yeah, it was.
Awesome. So, that was what happened when you were baptized, about 11 years old, Easter Sunday. Great day to be baptized. What does your baptism mean to you today? How does that influence your life these days?
I think it's still. I think it influences my life in a number of ways. Number one, I think who I am is really a result of who God is in my life. And I share this with my kids all the time that I can never be me without Christ, right? It was God in me who shaped, given me grace, forgave me, has walked with me, has allowed me to see blessings time over and time again that I don't deserve. And then even when I'm such a sinful person and fall short and make mistakes, his grace still covers and carries me and sees about me. and allows me to be the best person that I can be. I say this sometimes in marriage classes that I don't think that my wife is a benefit of my relationship or how good I have been in order to court my spouse. But I really think it's a benefit of my relationship with God because He trusts me enough to allow me to be invested in someone to be invested in my life. Same thing with my children. So I think my baptismal story shapes my life daily, right? To recognize that I've been washed in Christ and cleansed with Christ, and that He covers me and keeps me even in the midst of my own junk, my own mess of life, and my own mistakes and frailty, humanity. He still loves me, right? Unconditionally. So I think daily, man, I walk in that grace, I walk in that goodness, I walk in that love and that humility. Um, that simply shapes who I am. I just want to be the best of me, right? Flaws and all. So, um, so yeah, I think that's how it shapes me. So I think my outlook then into the world is really through that lens as well. That we're all people that make mistakes and fall short. But I think if there's anything to take, from our time is really like you got to be patient with people and you got to love people. You got to just be present. And time over time, you will see people change and shift and come around and grow in their own understanding of who God is in their life. So, yeah,
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think those are really important aspects of baptism, and I mean, especially, I mean, that shaping and molding of who you are as a human living in this world.
yeah,
Um, I mean, and that humility to say, yeah, I am a sinner and I've been cleansed, not because of me, but because of what God has done
yeah,
in my life. Um, and I think that same humility to see other people that way too. That's transformative. That's huge.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now, okay, so you're a pastor of the church and, letting pastors have an open microphone and say, here, pastor, teach. Is there anything else you really want people to remember or know um, about baptism?
Well, I
Other, other
can't.
than, other than what you've said, because you've got a lot of good in here.
Okay, you all know that we're living in like a really polarizing time, right? As I think about Stephen's question, and there's a lot going on in our world, in our communities, in our cities. And most recently is this whole thing with Memphis, and um, I don't. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't just remark to say something. And I think humanity is deeply flawed, right?
Mm,
But I think if you think of our baptism, that's what it's about, right? It's about recovering that flawedness. It's about recovering humanity. It's really about providing grace. And so I think the message that I would have for us today is to take a step back, breathe, recognize that everyone's human, everyone should be treated with dignity and care, and everyone is special in God's eye. We're all made in His image, no matter who we are, where we come from, and I want us to. I guess I want to take this opportunity just to say, like, we gotta care a little more about each other. We gotta love a little more on each other. We gotta check on each other a little more. We gotta give each other more hugs, and find that yeah, we might have differences, but our differences are unique in God, right? That's what makes us a family. I was thinking about my own personal family. I might not like everybody in my family, might not get along with everybody in my family, but I certainly love and have a sense of respect for everyone in my family. And I would treat them with the utmost care and love and dignity because they deserve that because they're made in God's image. So I think our society is just it's in a different place. And I just want us to remember and that we're all made in God's image and we all deserve dignity and love. So love one another, care for one another, look out for one another. And if you see something that's unjust, you gotta say something. You gotta raise it up. So I think that's where I'm at today, and that's what I'm thinking a lot about. Um, Raising a young 16-year-old male in my house, and just last night we had conversations about, how do you live your life in such a way that warrants you to be found with goodness and joy, and not seen as someone who's threatening and things of that nature. So love one another, y'all. Do good to one another. Be kind. Have a little more patience with one another. I think that's what I would take this opportunity to say.
That's a
Yeah.
good word. That's a good word. Thank you.
My
And I think
pleasure.
that's leaning back into, your baptism shapes you to be that kind of person.
It
Um,
does.
and I think shapes you, compels you, gives you the spirit to do it because,
Yeah.
I mean, that what you're calling for, I mean, it's not radical, but it is.
Right.
But that spirit enables us to do it. And especially like you noticed in this culture where there's so much polarization and
Right.
you don't really want to do that. Love each other, check in on each other, speak up when you see
Right.
something unjust, actually recognizing the image of God in someone else. Wow.
Right.
God forbid
Right.
you do that, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
And
I,
all the more so, I mean, all the more so, I think our baptism calls us to do that, right?
yeah,
So I think it's a reminder. So through this season of Lent, I think hopefully we are reminded of not only our own baptismal story, but the call to be the family of God, as unique as God has called it and as diverse as God has it to be. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great word. That's a great
yeah,
word. Pastor Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing your story and teaching. And I mean, what baptism can mean in our lives, because it's not just something that happened a long time ago, but it has
right,
this influence into shaping our lives today and how we live and how we love our neighbors. Um,
indeed,
so, so thanks, man. I appreciate it. And anybody who's watching here, if you have not been baptized, reach out to me, reach out to Pastor Jonathan. We would
yes,
love to get you connected and to extend this gift of God's grace for you, because it's something that shapes our lives in such a beautiful and needed way. And if you already have been baptized, we really encourage you to lean into that gift of God, and to see how it might be shaping your life for today and what's needed today in the world and in the place where God has planted you right now. So reach out to us. We'd love to celebrate this gift of baptism with you. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.
all right, peace, everybody. Thanks again. Bye bye.